Welcome to our InterPlay Talkback series. I have the pleasure of sitting here with Mat Smart. Hi, Matt.
Hello.
He's the playwright of the powerful play you just heard read, The Agitators, the story of Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass. This play first premiered at the Jiva Theater Center and was the best-selling premiere in the theater's history. He's written over 25 plays, including Kill Local, which was performed at La Jolla Playhouse and nominated for an outstanding new play by the San Diego Theater Critics Circle. The Royal Society of Antarctica, which is one I'm really interested and excited about, which got a 2015 Jeff Award for Best New Work. Samuel J. and K. at Williamstown Theater Festival and Steppenwolf. The Hopper Collection here in California at the Magic Theater and the Huntington Theater. Naperville, which was a critic's pick for the New York Times. He's received numerous fellowships and awards. We're very lucky to have him here chatting with us. Matt earned his bachelor's degree at the University of Evansville and his master's degree here in California at the University of California, San Diego. So, Matt, where are we talking to you from today?
I'm in my apartment on the Upper West Side in Manhattan. So I've lived in New York quite a long time. I'm from a suburb of Chicago, though, called Naperville, which is why I wrote a play called Naperville. And then also, I love California. I have a lot of family in the Bay Area, and I did go to grad school at UCSD.
I know that you're an avid traveler, including having spent some time in Antarctica. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I had this crazy goal in my life to go to all the continents and write a play set on each one, and I've done that. I actually finished that a couple years ago, so looking for the next new adventure. But yeah, I was a janitor at a science base, McMurdo Station in Antarctica for 3 months, and I wrote a play about it.
I was going to ask how your travels have impacted your work as a playwright, but I think you sort of answered.
Yeah, well, I love when I was in high school. I was a journalist, and I loved going and interviewing people and going to places and really finding out firsthand about information. I think I kind of carry that over with my writing. I love to travel and go places that are really different than what I know and what I grew up with in the suburbs of Chicago. And and Antarctica was definitely the most wild, different place I ever stayed in.
So you started to speak a little bit about your process and how some of it is, you got into it a little bit through journalism. Can you talk about your process as a playwright? Is it different for every project, or do you have sort of a standard approach?
It's pretty all over the spectrum. I mean, essentially, I find that I get inspired and then I try to write something. That used to be the process, but now because I have like so many things I'm kind of juggling, I get inspired and then like 5 years later I get to write the play. So right now I have a queue that's pretty long of things I want to write, but I haven't been able to yet. But I really love going into like very specific worlds with my travels. Yes, I love writing stuff that's saturated by place. But I also really have gotten into writing about history and really immersing myself in that and trying to bring it to life and trying to figure out why the story needs to be told now. So yeah, it really starts with inspiration, but then it, usually then some kind of exploration of that world, whatever that world may be. And then there just kind of comes a tipping point where I feel like, okay, I'm ready to write it. And often that's when I have some kind of opportunity to have like a workshop or whatnot. But I love really collaborating with a group of people and hearing it aloud and doing workshops and bringing in new pages every day. That's something that really helps me creatively, because I really think theater is the community event of coming together and hearing a story with one another. And our process in the theater is really to work together to make that happen.
I mean, that seems to lend itself right into the process of what it must have been like to write The Agitators. I'm curious about how that process rolled out.
Yeah, well, this was an example of being inspired and then it taking a long time before I actually got the opportunity to write it. So I was working at Jiva, which is in Rochester. So that's where Susan and Frederick spent a lot of their lives, was in Rochester, and where they became friends, Rochester, New York. And I was doing another play quite a few numbers of years ago, I think 6 years ago now. And I took a tour of the Susan B. Anthony House and Museum. And just in passing, they say, her and Frederick Douglass were lifelong friends, and they had a big fight over the 15th Amendment, which gave Black men the right to vote, but not women. And they didn't say anything more about that. And then when I just did a little bit of looking into it, I found that they had this rich, complicated 45-year friendship that no one had written about.
Wow.
So I pitched the idea to Jiva, and I said, is there any way you could get a commission to write this? Because it's going to take a ton of research and a lot of time. And it took a couple years, but they were able to we were able to piece together an application for a New York State Council of the Arts commission. And that's what allowed me to do about a year of research going back and forth from New York City to Rochester and really learning about their friendship through the different amazing resources in Rochester, like the University of Rochester Special Collection of Rare Books, which is where I did a ton of my research. So it was probably about a year, it was a couple years from the idea to getting the grant for the research, and then a year of research, and then probably a year of rewriting and workshopping the play, because I kept being afraid. I was like, how can I write these like two titans of American history? So I just kept doing more and more research, and then eventually there was just like a tipping point where I mean, the deadline was coming up for the commission, but also I just felt like I got to know them pretty well. The gift that they gave us is, I mean, Frederick Douglass has written like more than just about anyone. He has so many speeches and editorials and articles that he wrote. And then Susan B. Anthony also has a whole ton of letters that we have access to. And I also read some original letters that aren't published of hers. Yeah, just when you can hold a real letter in your own hands, it's really special. It really brings the history to life.
So how much of that research and that history actually shows up specifically in the play, and how much of that was sort of a jumping off point for your creative telling of this truly beautiful epic of over 45 years?
Well, the first director who I really worked on the play with is a wonderful director named Logan Vaughn, and she really encouraged me to. There was much more of the history and the nuts and bolts, because there's so much stuff that you research and you're like, oh, that's got to be in the play, and she really just encouraged me to focus on their relationship and the heat of their conflict, and their the times when they were allies, the times when they were adversaries, and really just get to the human side of it. So I really took that to heart. And so, you kind of have to know it, and then you kind of have to like forget it and cut it out. And sort of the bare minimum is in there, I think.
I'm wondering how the play has just changed in terms of writing from when you started to write it to where it is now, and how much you feel its resonance has changed since it premiered at Jiva.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I was writing the play. I first started writing when Obama was president, and I thought we were preparing to have the first woman as president, and that's the climate that it was going to first be produced in. And then when what happened, it felt like a very different environment. And I would say, I think it's both inspiring and depressing that what Susan and Frederick were fighting for is so resonant today. I mean, really, America has gone in these cycles, and the environment now is not all that different than what they were grappling with after slavery was abolished. I mean, I think it really is a testament to the power of their words and of their agitations throughout their life that it is so resonant today. And I think that Susan and Fred are great. They're great guides for that. And so I'm really pleased that y'all are reading the play and that it is getting more attention, because I think we still have a lot to learn from them.
But it does feels remarkably timely, and I think that that's a testament to good plays. Really good plays are living things that continue to be in conversation. I'm really interested in the musical score that you've included in the Agitators, which we haven't been able to explore in a reading, but you have some really powerful classical music, and then you have some references to contemporary music. I'm curious, how that sort of showed up for you.
Yeah, well, I think the most important thing about historical writing is that it doesn't feel like it's under glass and that it's stuffy. And as I worked on this piece, I thought about, well, who are the agitators today? And I think that musicians are some of the best agitators we have. And so, yeah, at the very beginning of the play, I call for the classical music to be mixed with Kendrick Lamar, who's being recognized as a great agitator, I think, for his music, as winning the Pulitzer Prize recently. Because the play is not just ultimately about Frederick and Susan being agitators, but it's about the current agitators and the whole history of people who, through dissent and through speaking out, have helped shape our country and change our constitution.
And sometimes through art, or sometimes
Yeah.
through a fantastic play. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today and for letting
Yeah.
us read your powerful play.